Hello, everybody. Welcome to Galaxy Brains, where your supercomputer isn't curing cancer. It's making 10,000 unique Josh Palmer lineups. Denny, we begin this week. We're the only place we could. That is Indianapolis, Indiana. Maybe use a different word for the name and the state. Where Colts owner Jim Irsay has fired one of the most respected coaches in the league, and Frank Reich, and replaced him with a television analyst who also happened to be a 12-16 high school football coach. Tell the folks why this will or will not succeed.
This is maybe the quintessential Galaxy Brain move, is to say, I know the perfect guy to replace my extremely qualified head coach, and it's my buddy who used to play offensive line for the team I own. He's a handsome guy. He has a beard. He's a tough guy. And most of all, Jim Irsay said, he doesn't want to score points. And I think that's the most important thing here. Look, when you're taking over the league's worst offense, or at least maybe a bottom three offense at this point, no, forget it. The league's worst offense. And you say, hey, we want a guy who is not going to follow the analytics, who is going to kick field goals from the 1-inch line. And, Jeff Saturday came out in his opening press conference as the Colts' new head coach, and he said, I'm an offensive lineman, bruh. I work awfully hard to get points. I'm going to take the points. It's a hard living there, man. So, and he's right. And he's right. Look, we can't argue as two guys who have never played the game. Okay. No. We can't argue that
never held
you fight hard. You actually give up, yourself. You give all of yourself to get that field goal, not the touchdown. You want the field goal.
Denny, they had already established a culture of not scoring points, actually. So, at first, some people thought this might not be the right move. This team's already in chaos. Why throw it into further chaos? They're actually just furthering the project they were already embarked on.
Yeah.
Of not scoring points, like you said, hiring a center, again, with no coaching experience whatsoever beyond the high school level, is in furtherance of that goal. And I'm going to riff on another thing you said. You said this is a real-life Galaxy Brain. You think acquiring Phillip Rivers is Galaxy Brain. You think, maybe acquiring Carson Wentz is Galaxy Brain. No. Firing Frank Reich in Week 10 and replacing him with the guy who had was 7 days before he was hired, was tweeting that his Week 10 opponent was, quote, horrible in the Raiders. That is Galaxy Braining. That is how it is done. Jim Irsay is one step ahead of the entire country.
And truly, you got to hand it to Jim Irsay.
You really do. You really, really, really do. And Denny, you have to hand it to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Because it took a long time. No one knew how to use Justin Fields, who, he's one of the most gifted athletes in the most gifted athletic league and the most gifted athletic country in the entire world. But the Bears, they just couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out how to use him until you told me about the show, maybe they should just let him run around, and maybe they should actually let this gifted athlete be athletic. Now they are, and he's looking like a superstar. Is this good or bad, Denny?
I say it's good, and it only took the Bears 18 months to figure it out. Most teams, they need 5, 6, 8, 10 years even to figure out, oh, hey, look, I have one of the most gifted athletes in the NFL, maybe in professional sports in total. And, oh, maybe we shouldn't use him like, I don't know, Vinny Testaverde, okay? And not even like prime Vinny Testaverde. No. Like, I'm talking like Dolphins era replacing Marino after the Achilles thing, Testaverde, okay? Like 43-year-old Vinny. That's how Justin Fields was being treated. And so you again, you have to respect and you have to commend the Bears for saying maybe this guy, Justin Fields, should use his legs because, again, he is the fastest guy on the field.
Denny, again, after it took them 18 months, so the process, no one knew how to use Justin Fields. They would throw to like people on TV. They would ask road-to-road writers, like, how do you use a gifted dual threat quarterback? They'd be like,
right,
we don't know. It took them, but then, so they made the switch after Week 6. Like, maybe we'll let this guy run. And then in Week 9, he rushed for the most quarterback yards in the regular season history of the NFL.
Right. And it wouldn't have happened if they didn't come to the conclusion that, maybe they watched him in practice once and they said, oh, man, this
just after all this trial and error of, okay, let's let him be a horrible passer again this game. Then let's let him be a horrible passer again this game with no weapons behind a terrible offensive line, et cetera. You need to try that usually 19 or 20 times.
I can imagine, Matt Eberflus coming up to his coaches and saying, have you ever noticed how fast Justin is? Have you seen? I just saw the kid run. He's incredibly fast. Do you think we can work with that in some way? I mean, and it works.
Denny, some people call it flex, by the way. Did you know how to say Matt Eberflus's name?
Maybe another flex is what Tony Pollard did without Ezekiel Elliott 2 weeks ago. Of course, the Cowboys were on bye last week. When Zeke was out with a knee injury, Pollard went ballistic against the Bears. 14 carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also caught a pass for 16 yards. He did everything that fantasy managers could ever want in a Tony Pollard start in Zeke's place. And this, it turns out, Pat, is a public relations nightmare for the Dallas Cowboys, because both Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy had to come out separately in the days after Pollard went crazy and said, look, that's all fine and good, but Ezekiel Elliott is our guy. And this brings me to the Galaxy Brain part. Tony Pollard excelling for the Cowboys is a problem for the franchise because of how much they're paying Ezekiel Elliott and how much they are committed to him as the heartbeat of the Cowboys offense. It is truly a Galaxy Brain situation in Dallas.
It's a Galaxy Brain again. It's just a throwback where it's basically like a feudal village where everything is just in service of like the one Lord, and like
right.
The Cowboys blacksmith, he's in service to Zeke. The guy who boils chickens in service to Zeke. The brewer in service to Zeke. The man who reads the constellations and divines their portents in service to Zeke.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if like someone else in the town is more talented, like Tony Pollard. The whole edifice basically crumbles if like the public sees that someone else is actually more powerful, maybe wiser. And so it actually is just really smart of the Cowboys to bury this, nip it in the bud, don't let it get out of control. You don't want the man behind the curtain to be revealed to be Zeke, and to be not good Zeke.
That's a great way to put it. And you have to give the Cowboys credit, Jerry Jones specifically, for downplaying the success of his best running back. It's something that most teams would not do. Most teams might even give Tony Pollard more of a chance, not the Cowboys, and that's why they're better than everybody else this year, obviously.
Well, and Denny, you just always take the easy way out, like give the best player the ball the most. That's not how you win football, as the Colts are showing us.
That's not Galaxy brained. That's for sure.
It's not how you win in the NFL. Denny, how you win in the NFL is acquiring Russell Wilson and giving him a 5-year, $245 million contract, or so the Denver Broncos thought. I don't know if you heard, it hasn't been going as well as some people thought it might. They're coming off their bye. I feel like that's a good time to assess the team. Other than the week one, that's when you're at like kind of like full strength for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And Denny, they're coming off their bye to a game where the city of Las Vegas, Nevada is expecting 36.5 points. Typically what you see if maybe 2 number 3 quarterbacks are starting, and maybe 1 number 2 quarterback is starting for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Broncos probably were hoping they would never be in any 36.5 total games this season.
I'm not sure this is what they expected, especially against a Titans defense that per EPA, I know some folks have an issue with EPA, but per EPA, they're very middle of the road. They're not a great defense, and the Broncos are, going to score maybe a couple touchdowns. Maybe if things go spectacularly well, they're going to score a couple touchdowns. So that is something I'm sure the Broncos are thrilled with. We saw Russell Wilson in practice recently wearing an armband with the plays on it, right? And this is something that he resisted in Seattle for a long time. Pete Carroll recently called him out for it and said, Gino's wearing the plays on his wristband so he can actually have good pace on offense. He's finally doing that here. Maybe we can get past the training camp install part of the season now that we're in week 10 and start producing some points, but probably not with the Broncos.
So yeah, it was really kind of, Gino, you think you're better than me? You think knowing the plays makes you a better quarterback than me? You think maybe being able to seamlessly audible in the middle of an NFL football game is important for an NFL quarterback? Well, I just think you're an elitist. I think you're pretentious. You're really just a jerk. And why are you trying to make Russell look bad, Gino? Why are you trying to do that?
He has succeeded in making it. It was a bit, I would say, even a Galaxy Brain bit to say Geno Smith better than Russell Wilson. No longer a bit. congratulations to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, no longer a bit. And I'm kind of shocked we didn't do a summer bit on Geno being better than Russell Wilson. Like, hey, we'll have some laughs. We'll talk about Geno just being better than Russell Wilson. And we didn't do it because something in the universe was telling us that he was. 6 passing touchdowns for Russell Wilson in 7 games. I would like to think the touchdown rate is higher on Galaxy Brain. So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you, as always, for expanding your minds.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.